listen. Pride/Prejudice, Chapter 4, Segment 4. "Mr. Wickham? I say, is that you, Mr. Wickham?" George thought for a prolonged minute, continuing to walk down the dark street until he had placed the voice and determined it could do no harm to claim the acquaintance. Might even lead to some advantage. He turned around and allowed the other man to catch up, registering the red coat. "Mr. Denny, I'll be damned. Sorry for my inattentiveness. I was miles away." Denny smiled at the beautiful face that confronted him. "Contemplating your many love affairs, I imagine," he said. George saw no reason to contradict the assumption. "What brings you to town, Denny?" "Oh, business," Denny said. "Nothing of interest. I say, fancy meeting you like this." "Yes," George said. "How's military life treating you?" Ought to be just up your alley, he thought. "Not bad at all," Denny said. "The militia, you know. Never too long in one place. Not like the regulars. Soon as the natives tire of us, or we of them, it's off to the next billet, and no danger of being sent somewhere dangerous like Spain." "Quite a noble martial sentiment," George said with a gentle laugh. No need to antagonize the man until he saw what he had to offer. "You know I'm not one of those dashing heroes," Denny said, apparently not offended, "but I'd do my duty if asked, and not complain." "Where are you stationed for the winter?" George asked. "Hertfordshire. Small village. Nobody of note." Denny snapped his fingers. "I know. What made me think of you, helped me to recall your name just now. That gentleman whose estate you grew up on, Mr. Darcy. He's there." "Darcy?" George felt that surefire aphrodisiac, the combination of fear and anger, surged through him at the name. "What's he doing in Hertfordshire? He's a Derbyshire man." "Staying with a friend," Denny said, with a wink and a nudge. A master of subtlety, old Denny. "Anybody I know?" George asked. "Don't think so. Pretty little fellow, named Charles Bingley. But things aren't going so smooth between 'em. Had a few encounters with Darcy myself." Denny preened, in the self-effacing manner of a man grateful to have been granted, by chance, the favors of one far above his touch. "Lovely tall man. Very strong. You never mentioned that, Wick," he added, in an aggrieved tone. George raised his eyebrows. "Sorry, but the pleasures of being ploughed up the back field by Fitzwilliam Darcy have long faded for me." Had he pushed too far? Hearing that name again so soon had put him off balance. "And since when do you need me to help you to sport?" Denny chose to take it in a friendly spirit. "Ah, Wick, you were always the master. The rest of us were just the poor prentices. You know that." "Well, it's been delightful seeing you again, but I must be going," George said. "Oh, don't leave it like this," Denny said. "Let me stand you a drink at least, regale you with tales of the officers' mess. We have some good times, I can tell you. Lots of pretty girls in Meryton. Not that I care over much for that, but admiration is a pleasant thing wherever it comes from." He studied the slim figure in front of him. "You know, you'd look damned smart in regimentals. If you're seeking a position, you could do a lot worse. And a commission in the militia don't cost anything, you know." There was the rub. George had endured weeks of torment, the last payment having run out weeks ago, and uncertain where to turn next. Mrs. Young's charity would last only so long. The name was fictitious, of course, the woman being neither encumbered by a husband, nor anywhere near what could be called, by any stretch of the imagination, youth. But even an over-eager whore of middle years had her limits, and Jenny Young was close to reaching hers. And then what? Making a decent living as a sharp was an entirely more demanding proposition in town than in the provinces. But life in the country was insupportable after a week. No sport, the palatable women kept close, the farm wives prematurely aged by hard work, about as appealing as the cattle they tended. And just as you were on the verge of getting inside one of the few tolerable girls, her father or brother was apt to turn up with a blunderbuss. "Tell you what, Denny," George said, "I think I'll take that drink you were offering. Might be a good idea at that. Always wanted to be the one giving the orders." "If that's what you're looking for, you won't find it as a lowly ensign in a militia regiment," Denny said. "But it has its compensations. Everyone loves a man in a red coat." "So they do," George said. "I know a snug little tavern just a few streets over, where a handsome officer and his friend can get a private room, no questions asked, and no danger of interference provided you have the wherewithal." "A lieutenant's pay isn't much," Denny said, "but I can stand the ready in a good cause. Lead on, Wick. What a lucky thing it was, running into you like this."